On a bare rock in the North Atlantic, a lighthouse went dark. When help finally reached it 11 days later, all 3 keepers were gone. No bodies, no boat, no struggle anyone could point to. Just a stopped clock, a cold fireplace, and 2 sets of coats missing out of 3. So what takes 3 grown men off an island they cannot walk away from? A wave, a fight, something none of them saw coming? Stay with me, because by the end of this you'll know exactly what was found on that rock and why the single creepiest detail in this story is the one part that never actually happened. Start with the place, because the place matters. The Flannan Isles sit about 20 miles off the west coast of Lewis, in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. 7 scraps of rock in open ocean. Nobody lived there. Shepherds rode out to leave sheep and rode back the same day. There's an old story that they wouldn't sleep on the largest island, alien more, and I'll let you decide what that's worth. There's a ruined stone chapel up there too, small enough that a man has to stoop to get inside. In 1899, engineers finished a lighthouse on that rock, 75 feet of granite, one of the most remote lights in Britain. It had been burning for barely a year when this happened. 3 men were on duty that December. James Ducat, the principal keeper, 20 years in the service, a wife and 4 children waiting at home. Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, the youngest of the 3. And Donald MacArthur, an occasional keeper, only out there because the regular man was ill. Remember him, he becomes the strangest part of this. There was a 4th keeper, Joseph Moore, but he was ashore on leave. That's the only reason he lived to tell any of this. On the night of December the 15th, 1900, a steamer called the Archer passed the Flannans on her way to Leith. Her crew noticed something wrong. The light wasn't burning. They reported it, and here's the first thing that makes your stomach turn. That report sat in a drawer. It didn't reach the lighthouse board in time to matter. The relief vessel, the Hesperus, was supposed to reach the island around the 20th. Storms held her back for days. She finally arrived on Boxing Day, the 26th of December. And straight away the crew knew. No flag flying on the mast, no empty provision boxes waiting on the landing, nobody standing on the steps. The captain blew the ship's whistle. Then he sent up a flare. Nothing answered. So they put Joseph Moore in a small boat and landed him alone. Picture that climb, 160 steps cut into rock, wind coming off the Atlantic, and the man knows before he reaches the top that something is very wrong. The outer gate was shut. The main door was shut. He opened them and called out. Nobody answered. Inside, the kitchen was tidy. The beds were unmade. The clock had stopped. The ashes in the grate were stone cold. Moore ran back down to the boat. He wouldn't go up again alone. When they searched the whole island properly, they found something that has bothered people for over a century. The lamp itself was in perfect order, cleaned, refilled, wicks trimmed, ready to be lit that evening. These men hadn't abandoned their post. They had finished their work. Whatever happened, happened in the middle of an ordinary day. Then the coats. 3 men, 3 sets of heavy oilskins. 2 were gone. The 3rd was still hanging on its peg. It belonged to Donald MacArthur. Think about what that means. 2 men dressed properly for the weather and walked out. The 3rd followed them without his coat into an Atlantic December. Nobody does that unless they're in a hurry, and keepers are not supposed to leave the light unattended. All 3 going out at once broke their own standing orders. The last written record on the island was from the 15th December. Ordinary entries, weather, work, routine. Nothing that reads like a warning. The board sent a superintendent named Robert Muirhead to work out what happened. He'd hired these men himself. He knew all 3 personally. And it was Muirhead who found the real evidence. Not in the lighthouse down at the West Landing. That landing had been torn apart, iron railings bent flat, a block of stone weighing more than a ton shifted out of its place. A lifebuoy was gone, and the ropes holding it hadn't been untied. They'd been torn. And there was a storage box fixed to the rock, 110 feet above the sea. It had been burst open, and everything inside it was scattered. 110 feet up. Whatever reached that box came out of the ocean. Muirhead's conclusion was simple, and honestly, it's still the best one. 2 men went down to secure equipment after heavy weather. The third saw something coming from the window, ran out without stopping for his coat, and all three were taken by the same wave. No bodies were ever recovered. Not one, not ever. Now here's the part I really want you to hear, because you've probably already been told a different version of this story. The famous version has a logbook full of terrifying entries, a storm nobody else recorded, one keeper weeping, another praying, a final line about God being over all. It also has a meal left untouched on the table and a chair knocked over. None of that is in the record. The overturned chair and the abandoned meal come from a poem written in 1912, 12 years after the men disappeared. The weeping log entries came later still, invented for magazine stories, and passed around until people started quoting them as fact. And that's the thing that gets me. The detail that made this case famous is the one detail somebody made up. The real evidence is stranger, and it's quieter. A cleaned lamp, a stopped clock, a coat still on its peg, a 1-ton stone moved by the sea. Other explanations were floated over the years. A fight that ended badly, one man losing his mind, foreign agents, something living in the water. Not one of them ever produced a shred of evidence. So, was it the wave? Was it a mistake made in a panic? Or something the three of them saw and we never will? Here's everything we can actually prove. 3 men, 1 rock, a lamp ready to burn, 2 coats gone and 1 left behind, a landing torn to pieces, and nobody ever again. The light is still out there, it runs on its own now, and nobody lives on Elian Moor at all. Thanks for staying with me all the way to the end. If the stories history left unfinished are your kind of thing, subscribe and stay close. There are a lot more of the vanished still waiting.